COVID-19 is first and foremost a disease that attacks the respiratory system and moves into the lungs in the more serious cases. To understand what's happening, we need to understand how our lungs work, and we've got Dr. Eric Griggs. We're going to safely socially distance here. I'll bring in the doc, and you'll do your little explanation here of exactly what we have. Obviously, a healthy lung on the right side, and that you use this for a smoker's demonstration.
Yeah,
normally.
Normally this is our stemnola. I was trying to figure out a way to explain this so people could see it, and as usual, it's stemnola to the rescue. It's usually a cute kid in a lab coat, but y'all are stuck with me. What we have is it's a lung simulation. These are sheep lungs. We have a healthy lung here on the right, and we have a diseased lung. We usually say smokers, but it's an oxygen-deprived lung. COVID-19 is a disease of the lungs. It gets into the respiratory system, it causes a pneumonia, and because of that, the fluid causes a decrease in the amount of oxygen you're able to get into the lungs to give to the heart, as we have in the center. So as we inflate these,
So what you're going to do is you've got a little step thing down there, and you'll show how on the right side you get more lung capacity there versus on the left.
And it wouldn't be one of our
screen right. Sorry.
Stemnola presentations if I didn't mess up the pump or something. But yeah, we're going to show you.
This thing worked great.
On the healthy lungs, you can see how well it inflates and how pink the lung is, and this is what we normally do on 21% oxygen in the air that we breathe. As the virus gets into the lung through the trachea, it goes down through the pipe, through the trachea to the bronchi, to the bronchioles, to the alveoli. The alveoli then fill up with fluid, and they decrease the ability to oxygenate. And as you can see, it damages the way the tissue is able to perform, and also it increases the resistance. So you can actually hear
it. It actually has almost a hardening of the lungs physically?
Yeah, the consistency of the healthy lung is about that of, say, a Ziploc bag or saran wrap. Once the lungs start to fill with fluid, it becomes almost like a stale marshmallow, and it gets harder and harder to breathe. And you can actually hear the increased resistance.
So that's kind of the shtick of the demonstration. So if you had a perfectly healthy lung, it would almost be like sticking it into whipped cream sort of thing, versus a marshmallow for a lung that was in trouble versus a stale marshmallow for a lung that was, you're on your way to death.
Well, and at that point, you get in the top of the lung, as you can see, this lung here is the trachea, and this is where your endotracheal tube goes in for ventilator use. And the pressure of the ventilator can cause damage to the lung itself, which is why a lot of people, after they resolve, end up with lung damage.
I think one of the fascinating things about this is doctors discovered that with this, unlike some other respiratory diseases, with COVID-19, they were often better waiting on the ventilator and not using it right away? Yeah,
the survival rate on the ventilator is about 20%. The ventilator is not like a tire on a car. It's a very serious life support device, and it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary in order for you to breathe and oxygenate. So it can be traumatic. The longer you stay on the ventilator, the more likely you are to not come off the ventilator. Again, it's only 20%. In New York, in some places, they were saying as high as as low as 12%.
Wow, all right. So there's a way to check your oxygen
Yes,
level.
so we've been talking about pulse oximeters for the last few weeks, and I figured it finally arrived in the mail. This is a pulse oximeter. It measures the amount of oxygen in your blood. If you're having issues of anxiety, where you have shortness of breath and you're not able to tell the difference, a pulse oximeter will let you know whether or not you're in between 94 and 100%, which is normally what we have in oxygenation, versus 94 and below. And the problem with this, with COVID-19, is that they're finding very slowly the oxygen is falling off of the red blood cells, and by the time you get to the emergency room, you could feel fine, but it could be critically low, and you'd be in a critical condition.
All right, fascinating. Thanks, Dr. Eric Griggs, our little guy.